JB here, JB here. Hold on one second. May 16th, about 2:30 on this great afternoon. Typically, it's a fine afternoon. Going to talk about the markets like I always do. Some of the names I added today, some of the other names, some updates on, and go from there. I don't have the charts in the room, so I do apologize. I'll try and get those up, or at least get them synced. If you check out the post later, I'll try and have them synced. But take a look at a SPY here, or the S&P, pretty much flat, 529.60 and change. I talked about that upper Bollinger Band. Seems like we're going to chop around that area and probably close right here, 529.50, 530 or so. Very tight trading range today. 531.52 at 11 o'clock. Now down here, 529. You start doing the math. It's a very well, I wouldn't call it minuscule, but a small intraday swing, which is good. Consolidation. So you don't want to see a huge move to the upside or downside, especially after the nearly 10 in a row rally for the S&P. So I think that all bodes well. Earnings start to wind down. We had Walmart this morning. The retail sales number on Wednesday, which came in disappointing. But you start looking at some of these names, and Walmart's up 7%. So not saying that, I said on Rant this morning and a watch, I'm not saying we're going to have a massive rally from here, but I think it just bodes well, at least for a little more, for some blue sky breakouts, 540 or so on a SPY, and then revisit from there. So that's the SPY. Some of the names I've traded today, or at least added, BIDU. So I talked about BIDU for the last couple of weeks, and actually the last couple of months, even before Citron started doing his pump. It's front and center in the AI space, and I used to trade BIDU way back in 2007, 2008, before the splits. They had pornography issues. I can go on rants for BIDU for a long time, but China had restrictions on BIDU a long time ago, and the stock was like $100, and it went from 100 all the way up to 1,000. Then it had a 10-for-1 split. I don't know if it split again, but a great story. They did so well that Google could not penetrate the China market for search engines. And then with all that strength that they had with the China market, they failed to find other avenues for growth. And it seemed like at times they were struggling. They were trying to just throw ideas at the wall and hope they stuck, lost a lot of money, billions of dollars trying to go after some of these initiatives. And now finally, they're front and center in the AI, the next gen AI, whatever you want to call it, the big buzzwords in China. China has named a couple of companies that are going to be part of that, and Baidu's one of them. There's also that news, Tesla with Baidu, so the robo taxis, all that fun stuff, and it's almost like Baidu's coming back into the limelight. So I saw the earnings this morning, and I was looking to, I was almost disappointed I didn't add calls. So I'm like, wow, this is going to go to 120 or so before the open. Goes up to 116, phased, and down. I think it hit under 105 at the open. I wish I added calls earlier. Went and got some later data strikes. I was looking for 130s, but they were expensive on a risk score basis. I think if it rallies and it gets into the 125s, the 140s will pay nice. So went and got those calls. Who knows with these China stocks? Same with, Baba did really well today. The China markets could be down 2% tomorrow overnight, and Baidu just gaps down just because. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm hoping this is finally the kick in the butt that Baidu needs to really start to get going. And then this is the 13F season, right? So you have all these funds reporting their holdings, and I guess I don't know what they have, what's the exact amount of time they have to do the filings, but a lot of the names, and I'm not going to say Michael Burry from The Big Short, I think David Tepper, some of these big hedge fund names, they're all starting to get into the China and into China names, JD, PDD, Baidu, Baba. And take it with a grain of salt, because some of these folks have been bullish Baba for a very, very long time. So it's more or less that they're averaging on some positions. But at some point, you have to think, similar to small caps and biotechs in the US, I think at some point the China ADR is going to break out, especially with China markets going on around. So that's my thought process there on Baidu. So I grabbed some Baidu calls, hopefully be able to lock some of those in at some point in the coming week or two to cover costs and ride the rest. Adobe, just so disappointing. You would think with the market rallying that Adobe would have some follow through all the way up to 486 and change, and then it's down 0.5%, but it's the type of name it needs to start going. So still like that one for upside over $500 in the coming day or two. And then if it does break 500, I'll look for some later dated strikes. That's Adobe. CGC, so just more news in the cannabis space, you saw some of the cannabis names spike, CGC ACB, the just more clarity from weed, from US's reclassification news or updates. So Joe Biden said cannabis is being moved to Schedule 3 category, which means it has both medical benefits and some potential for abuse, from Schedule 1, which is the most severe classification, blah, blah, blah. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. So today, the Justice Department is taking a step to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug under federal law. I mean, this is all old news, but it's just more of a progression into the right direction, especially for names like CGC, ACB, who have been, it's been a long time coming for this. So went and got some, let's see, the 15, I was trying to see what the 15s were because I was actually going to add more strikes. Yeah, well, at some point maybe I'll look to get some Junes, but I got some July strikes. I'll probably look for some more calls on CGC. I'll probably just wait for, I still have just a couple of the 15s expiring tomorrow. But 17, 18 on CGC, ACB, 10, 11, 12 at least. ACB, I still have Junes, but I need some help there on those strikes. But it's been some nice trades over the last couple months on those names, and I'll continue to look for opportunities to play those for upside. But I all these it's like cards or dominoes, right? These dominoes in favor of these cannabis names, they just keep falling over, one after one, and eventually, I mean, they're just going to really take off, in my opinion. And that's why IIPR, which I was looking to get some July strikes. At some point, I locked the Junes in. I was looking before. They're still not. They're getting close to 100%. IIPR is at 114 here. Earnings last week, which a little bit of disappointment in regards to its revenue, just a year-over-year decline, but some of it had to do some things outside of their control. And again, I've said this before, I think IIPR is like the best risk. I wouldn't say it's not risk-free, but the one that has the best risk reward in regards to what's going on in the cannabis space, because the demand is just going to bode well for them. They don't have the same headline risk of scaling out and selling and all that, getting licenses and things like that. So they're well positioned to take advantage of this. And you can see it's starting to, it's 114.21 now. I said it on the watch list this morning. I think it's a foregone conclusion. It's going to 120. It's just a matter of how far over 120. So once I lock some of my Junes to cover costs, I'll look for some later data strikes. Love IIPR here. Trupanion, $34. It's up 20%. The irony is it's only up. It's not even up where it was 2 days ago when we had the squeeze with the meme names. I think it hit almost $36. Talking about this morning, Bank of America upgraded the stock to buy from neutral, $49 price target up from 35. And I still have people tweeting at me on Trupanion that they're going to dilute, it's going to zero, whatever. It's comical how it works. And it's been very many years they've been coming at me. So back in the day, I used to argue with a lot of folks like I'm doing with the ENVX right now. But at some point I'll revisit Trupanion. I said it as well. I think the fair value is like 35.40, but now this upgrade this morning, the short interest, maybe people start to capitulate. Maybe it gets into the 45.50s. Another analyst gets on board. So maybe a name I'll revisit. Maybe not today, but tomorrow into the weekend. I'm trying to think of some of the other names here. Take a look at VKTX. So Roche, and I didn't even look, but they had a weight loss data. I didn't even look at the total, the whole data set and things like that. But I guess they had good data. It's funny, the Roche CEO was talking positively about VKTX on their earnings call just a couple of weeks ago. Definitely an opportunity at some point, I think, especially with the MASH data coming out for VKTX in the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So I'll probably wait here. I mean, sitting here at 69, maybe wait tomorrow, see where it opens, see if the dust settles, and I'll look for some strikes there on VKTX. ROKU, let's see. That was looking semi-promising. All the way down to 6109. Now it's almost back to flat. Still like that one to 70 plus in the coming days and weeks. Not going to talk about ENVX. I keep not going at people. I'm just trying to get, it's like a fact-finding session when I go on FinTwit and StockTwits and some of these other portals where I can try and find information. But at some point, I've been kind of putting a red flag list of all the red flags I have on it. And then I guess I'll do some kind of quick webinar But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I don't make money on it. So why should I waste my time? But I might look to get some more some more inexpensive puts. I talked about it when I had the Riley calls. It's kind of like a hero or zero play. So hey, they announced a concrete partnership deal, whatever. Maybe the stock goes 15, 20 bucks. If nothing really happens, or they're exposed as, hey, a lot of the stuff is fluff, there's no concrete evidence to their product, things like that, then I think it goes under 765. So then I start looking. I'm like, well, I mean, July 6th look interesting on a risk reward basis, considering have if that's kind of where, I know that's 50% from, well, 50. I'm trying to do the math here. Well, it's not 50. It's like 30. Let's say it drops 30% from here, so 270. So you're talking 630, and those will pay depending on the time frame. So I might look for some other strikes. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Here's the thing: there's so many stocks, so many things. I want to be able to take advantage of opportunities in the market. I don't want to spend too much time on something. It's just, for some reason, some of it has to do with how some of the folks interacting with me on FinTwit, that I think uh, it's it kind of like rubs me the wrong way, because I'm like, do they not see the same things that I see? And maybe it's just me. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm trying to think of some other names here. Oh, iRobot's sitting here at 11 bucks. At some point, that's going to break out on its own merits. It might, well, break out. What is it up this week? Let's see. I'll have to pull that up. Oh, my top 5 stocks for why is this not up here? My top 5 stocks for 2024 doing pretty well. So Agilysys, well, actually STRL just dropped, but Agilysys almost up over 100 bucks. STRL's up like 35%. Star Surgical is up nearly 40%. The two laggards would be GPCR, which at some point I think GPCR is going to take off. And it's MTH, right? So Meritage Homes, great. I think the home building space, such a great story, especially MTH just has like its niche market. I think that's going to do well at some point. The thing is with some of those names, the liquidity, the spreads on the call side, very tough to play on a risk reward basis. So at some point, maybe I'll visit those. And Turns Pharmaceuticals. So all the way up to 633 in the morning. Mizuho, I forget how you pronounce the analyst. They came out with a positive note yesterday. I talked about the note from it wasn't RBC Capital. I forget who it was yesterday. At some point, that's going to get FOMO as well. Especially when you have positive data in the space. All that does is bring more attention to names that are small caps with plenty of cash, long runway, possible catalysts on the horizon. So that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll try and get back. Well, I'll be back on the audio tomorrow. Rock and roll.